It's because that's the part that I played on French horn.
Listening once again.
It's not plastic shooting, guys. We talked about this.
Okay.
Didn't we talk about it last podcast?
We did. What's up, guys? Welcome to The Voice of Truth, episode technically 3, but 2 because we cut the chair episode because it hurt my brain to debate whether or not chairs exist.
They still don't.
We're not getting into this. But yeah, so just in case you are wondering about that cliffhanger, it was a good episode. It may appear later as a lost episode, but it hurt my brain. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
Sad, but I agree with your decision.
Yeah, we discussed this. It was a hard choice. It was also very long.
Yeah, it was like an hour of just talking about chairs. Pretty sure we would have lost our audience there, but I enjoyed it.
I'll have to watch it separately.
Okay, so let's go ahead and introduce everyone because we have the wonderful special guest that hasn't technically been on the channel with his knowledge yet, Max.
Hey, Max.
Just say like, hi, this is Max, so the people listening know your voice.
Hi, my name's Max.
Wow, good job.
Sawyer.
Simon.
Garrison.
And Cohen.
Yeah.
Let's go!
Okay, so this week on the question of all questions, what ice cream flavor are you feeling right now?
Am I feeling?
Are you feeling? Not what type of ice cream are you wanting to eat right now, but how are you feeling? Like, for instance, if it was not really the best day and you don't like Rocky Road, you could say it was a Rocky Road day.
Oh, wow.
Or if you love an ice cream, like it was a great day, this is my favorite flavor. Like, what was your day in the form of an ice cream flavor?
Probably Rocky Road.
Do you like Rocky Road?
No.
Okay.
Mint chocolate chip.
Do you like mint chocolate chip?
Love it.
Okay.
I would say vanilla because it's enjoyable but pretty plain.
I think I would say the same thing. And I just have peach cobbler too, so like that just makes me in a vanilla mood, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sweet and enjoyable, but also kind of plain.
What's yours?
I gotta think now.
You
I was
were
listening to
thinking
y'all's
before?
questions. Answers. Let's see. It was a good day. I wouldn't say, like, yesterday was an absolutely awesome day. Yesterday would have been a Moose Tracks day. That's my favorite flavor. Today was a good day. Probably, I always butcher this word. Is it Napolitan or Neapolitan?
Neapolitan.
I always said Napoleon.
Napoleon.
But that one, like, it's good. It's not my favorite flavor, but it's good. It
Nice.
has variety. But yeah, I like that question because it's like, it's a better way of asking, like, how are you doing? It's more fun and creative. And you get to learn the person's favorite or least favorite ice cream.
I like that.
But yeah, so today kind of our topic is that Cars 2 is the greatest movie of all time.
No, we're all
Raise
shaking
your
our
hand
heads.
if you agree.
We're shaking our heads right now if you're just listening. But all right, give us
It's
a
one
case.
of my favorite movies of all time.
Give us a case for Cars 2.
No, Cars 2 literally gets so much hate on the internet. We are going to be tearing up. I saw like the thumbnail for a video that said Cars 2 is the worst movie of all time. This is basically like a counteract to that.
Okay, I don't agree with that
I
either.
love Cars 2.
It's not the worst.
It's solidly in the middle, mediocre, which coming from Pixar is kind of a surprise because they make pretty good movies.
They made The Good Dinosaur.
I think that's a great analysis.
Yeah, well, that's like another exception.
Onward, Luca,
Onward was pretty good.
and Toy Story 4.
That one was pretty good.
No, it wasn't.
Are good.
Yeah.
Toy Story
Luca
4 was
insane.
not good.
Wow, I don't know what standard you're basing your movie standards off of. Soul was pretty good.
I haven't seen them.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Up
Wasn't it, like,
was the
not
best
very
one.
good?
Up is the best one in my opinion.
Up is
Up?
definitely up
Up
there.
is beautiful.
Up
Yeah.
is I like Up. Actually, I haven't seen the full movie.
And they're all
Come
better,
on.
they're all better than Cars 2. So
Yeah.
that's,
No.
proves the claim that Cars 2 is the greatest.
Cars 2 literally has everything into one movie.
What?
What do you mean, what?
Yeah, what
It
tell me
has
more.
romance, action, trains, cars, plane,
How?
travel, a good soundtrack, a spy movie, racing, and Francesco.
The more you stuff into a movie, the more it dilutes each aspect of it. Just
Okay,
makes
that
it-
was true for Muppets Most Wanted, but not Cars 2.
Is that the one with like the Russian Kermit?
Yes. Did y'all watch that?
I saw.
I've seen
and
it before, yeah.
I think I've seen clips from it, but no, I've not seen the whole thing.
I like that one.
Well,
I like spy movies and travel.
yeah,
Which
I
is why I
guess
like
that would make
Cars too.
sense.
What did you think of Mission Impossible 4?
Isn't that have
Oh.
all the same things? Except for Francesco, maybe.
No Francesco.
Well,
no Francesco.
speaking of that, I think it would be good to talk about what we should consider when watching or intaking content.
Okay.
Like, what are y'all's thoughts on storytelling?
Like, are we talking about quality, or are we talking about like, the what it would do to our hearts if we watched it?
Which one do you think?
I don't know. You're the one asking the question.
I don't know, whichever you prefer. Like,
Well,
what, basically, here's probably a better way to say it. If what we intake is what we output, should we not consider more what we're intaking?
I think we should consider what we're intaking. Definitely, 100%. A lot of people kind of separate in their minds what they're intaking from what they do. And that, I guess that can work up to a certain point. Because at some point when you're watching certain things, there's no reason for you to be watching that except for to appeal to your sin nature. You know, and that just feeds that element of you. Though I think you can watch movies that have more like inappropriate content and still be able to get something bigger out of it because it's condemning that thing, and you're not watching it to see that thing. You're watching it to see the redemption of it. If that makes sense.
This is honestly why I like Cars 2. Because it presents high quality action. And honestly, okay, this may sound weird, but the way it presents like the deaths in the movie, it does so without doing it in a gory way.
I mean,
Show
how
the
would it be
crushed
gory?
body of the car.
I don't know if you can get more gory than that. It's just seeing the innards
Well, like,
of a.
think about the guy that blew up. Like, you didn't see it. It showed it by showing what was off screen.
Yeah.
That was one.
I thought that scene was disturbing as a kid. Personally, but
It was, but like, it still wasn't as disturbing as like seeing someone like
actually
something
blow up.
like yeah.
Do you think that's-
I do remember a death where a car slips off an oil rig, and when it hits the water, tires, pieces of the person, I guess, of the car, are separated. And
Oh no.
if we translate that to actual people, that would not be very appropriate for children.
Oh,
But it's
that's
a car.
true.
I just think
They
in
present it
the
in a
cars,
cleaner
the
way.
tires are more like shoes.
Yeah, because you can change out
Or
your
your
tires.
limbs, because they have a very similar purpose.
But like, do you think that watching cars getting maimed could,
What do you
could
mean by that
affect
word?
the heart of a child?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
You know, as a kid, I had this Tow-Mater remote control that like shot missiles at stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like the best toy ever. But I can see in a world, you know, there's a lot of machine guns in cars too and stuff like that, where kids might get the wrong idea there. Maybe myself. I think it's presented in a very tame way, which is fine. But I guess what I'm saying is, you'd be careful about everything you watch just because it's a children's movie.
Yeah.
That's true too.
So what do you think is the redeeming value or positive message that Cars 2 has?
You're the bomb. No, Mater. That's what I've been trying to tell you this whole time. You're the bomb.
What a great analogy for friendship.
It's a beautiful analogy for friendship. And like I remember writing that on a basketball that I gave to my dad for Father's Day. Like, you're the bomb. Because like I love that movie so much. And like I figured that was like a good way, just like, I mean, obviously, he was talking that Lightning McQueen was a bomb, and we're not going to go into the aspect of what if a person had a bomb hooked up to them. That's a different thing. But, yeah, it has the redeeming quality of friendship. Mater's willing to sacrifice and blow up the entire Buckingham Palace just to prove a point because he knows he's right.
Wow.
Wow. That seems like
So,
misguided
moral of
patriotism
the
or
story:
something.
if you have a bomb and you know who attached it to you, go to the royal family and prove who did
No.
it.
Okay, please do not do that.
For legal reasons,
we
we
may
have
get
to-
demonetized.
Yeah, we have to say
No.
no on that one. Sorry.
Simon, no one here is denying that Cars 2 is a good movie. But you're going to have to
Do y'all
prove
agree
to me
Cars 2 is
that
a good
Cars
movie?
2, Pixar's Cars 2, is better than Pixar's Up.
No.
Hmm.
You haven't even seen all of Up. You can't even speak on this.
I can't. He's right. It's better
Well,
than
like, the
Cars
Dark
2 or
Knight.
Cars 3.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Cars 3.
Oh.
Wonderful Life is a great movie.
I watched that. Okay, I'd seen it before, but I watched it on the plane to Utah, and like honestly,
That's a
that's
good one.
kind of where I got a little bit of my fundraising idea for gibson.com/John410.
Yeah.
Quick plug. But like, there's just so much goodness in that movie. But
Are you saying there's more goodness in Cars 2, though?
You have to remember that a good
All right.
message, just because you enjoy
hold
it,
up,
doesn't
hold
mean
up,
it has a
hold
good
up.
message.
Cars 2 or It's a Wonderful Life? That's a really good question. Well, I know Dallas Jenkins' favorite movie is It's a Wonderful Life.
We're not talking about Dallas.
We're talking about you.
your
I
favorite
know.
movie.
Is Cars 2 your favorite movie of all time?
No.
Okay, what is it?
But it's still the best, right?
It's still the best.
Like
Because-
highest quality? Is that what you're saying?
Objectively, the best.
It's objectively the best. What do you mean by objectively?
I mean, is it the greatest movie of all
Would
time?
God say it's the
Regar-
greatest?
regardless of what people say.
What do y'all like about Cars 2?
Well, I like all the things you said you liked about it. You know, it's got a good message of friendship. It's got action.
I just feel like it has a bunch of stuff that it does kind of well, but a lot of movies do that same stuff better.
But do you agree it's underrated?
No, I think it's just rated.
I think it's.
I'm going to make a
mediocre.
bold statement that I don't know if everyone will agree with. I
What?
think that of the three Cars movies, Cars 2 is the most entertaining.
Okay. I thought he was about to say something else.
I might agree with that. At least my 8-year-old self would.
Yeah.
I would. Story-wise,
Maybe.
Cars is better.
Cars
I think
1?
Cars has a better
Cars 1.
moral at the end of the movie of sacrificing glory and fame for friendship and being humbled, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember anything about Cars 3, though.
that was.
I feel like that one
that
was
was a
They
pretty
disappointment.
They completely
forgettable.
forgot Cars 2, which is annoying.
It was literally about cars going on a road trip, which is basically, if you translate that to people walking.
We'll be right back after this quick break. And we're back. Welcome back,
Wow,
guys.
that was a
so,
long break.
During our time away from the camera, we went and got some ice cream together, and we just bonded looking at the sunset. And I want to talk about that a little bit.
He's lying.
I am. We didn't even get up. We just, yeah. Anyways, Sawyer said something really good I want to circle back to. But recently in class, one of the things that we learned was about worldview analysis and kind of what films are promoting through their worldview, and even some of what we were learning through song analysis. We kind of did a similar thing with songs, is that the worldview reflected in a piece of art reflects the creator's worldview?
It can.
It can.
I guess it can also not. If it was a critique of a certain worldview,
Yeah.
you could have an entire movie playing out within a certain worldview, but it's like a critique of that worldview.
Or you can have something like Inception, which we talked about a bit, where you have Christopher Nolan,
Yeah.
who is not Christian, but there's kind of a Christian message in that.
What Christian values are in Inception?
Do you mean Interstellar?
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm at Interstellar.
What
Yeah,
Christian
that's my bad.
values are in Interstellar?
We talked. Garrison and I did a thing on this. Do you guys have to say it, Garrison?
The five-dimensional beings could be seen as like an analogy for like a spiritual reality that's above our own, and they're kind of like guiding the trajectory of the fate of the people in the movie. And the also you could see Cooper as like a Christ figure because he sacrificed himself going to the black hole to basically save humanity. And then he, of course, rises again. He comes back out after realizing that he was the one that was affecting the past. So kind of like a crucifixion story, like metaphor, and then spiritual beings.
Yeah.
So is any movie in which the main character dies
To save another person.
or at least sacrifices and maybe thinks they die, in a sense, in order to come back, is that what you argue is like kind of parallel to Christ?
I think
Yeah.
there's a couple things that make it a little. Number one, you have to. It has to be like an act of substitutionary atonement, so like sort of a replacement for that, and then also do like a selfless act.
Yeah.
Right?
So like Cars 2.
Which was kind of like Cooper. What in Cars 2?
Who's the Jesus figure in Cars 2?
Finn McMissile. At the very beginning of the movie, he dives into the water. Everyone thinks him to be dead. And then at the race, he comes back to save Mater. And they're like, Finn McMissile, but you're dead! And then he's like, not for long. And then he like does
I think in
the
the
fire
Interstellar
extinguisher
case,
thing.
Cooper's saving like all of humanity.
Yeah, I mean that
And
does.
this
He
was
is saving all
I
of
don't think
humanity.
every sacrifice is necessarily
No.
a Christ-like sacrifice.
Yeah.
He also didn't
Um,
sacrifice himself for anything.
Who?
Finn McMissile, like his own life. Like,
Yeah,
he
that's
just
true.
Faked his own death to finish a mission.
Yeah, Cooper went in thinking he was gonna die.
Yeah.
For sure.
But
I have
yeah.
not seen Interstellar. I do not endorse Interstellar because I have not seen Interstellar.
Are we?
Just like I do
recording
not
this?
endorse Up.
Are we recording?
What?
Why don't you? Why don't you endorse that?
I haven't seen Up.
Oh, so you
need to
can't
do your
endorse
homework.
Up. It's not that you don't. It's just you
Yes.
don't know if you do.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you would.
You would endorse Up.
The parts I've seen are good. I just don't
How much have
understand
you
the
seen?
plot.
How much have you seen?
So I've just seen it at the dentist office.
And
I
when did
watched
you
it whenever
start?
I was walking in and when I was walking out.
And how much was that?
It was like the part where his wife gets old and dies.
Wow.
Well, okay, they meet, married life, beautiful soundtrack.
Michael Giacchino.
Giacchino.
Michael Giacchino
Giacchino.
or Giacchino?
Giacchino?
Debate. How do you pronounce his last name?
No, not the debate we're
I
having
thought it
right
was
now.
like Giorgino or something.
I think it's
thought it
either
was
Giacchino or
Giacchino.
Giacchino. Giacchino. Michael Giacchino or Giacchino.
I have not seen Up. I saw it at a dentist office. Like, the very first part,
And then when you came back, what did you see?
whenever I came back, I saw the old guy with the mustache falling off the blimp.
So you saw
Wow.
both ends of the movie.
That
You
was a
saw
long
the
dentist
beginning and the
appointment.
climax.
Yeah, wow.
Dang.
I will say that the climax of that film is actually pretty.
It's
pretty
solid.
well
And
executed.
I do remember the colorful bird Kevin
Yeah.
and Doug, but I don't know how they meet.
That is a great movie. Great
Yes.
characters, good humor.
Squirrel.
Russell is absolutely adorable and
Absolute
hilarious.
classic.
Yes, iconic character.
Yes.
One thing they said about this is kind of off topic, but one thing I think it was about Star Wars characters is one thing that makes Star Wars characters so great and so iconic is like they have a silhouette almost. Like you don't even have to see all details, but like Darth Vader, like you know the silhouette and the shape of his helmet,
Yeah.
and like Chewbacca or like Han Solo, and I would say that Russell has a pretty iconic silhouette. So
Yeah.
That's a pretty interesting thought, I guess.
Yeah, I see that.
and that doesn't necessarily mean that a character is great because they have a great silhouette.
Like Barney.
That is a pretty iconic silhouette. But yeah, I don't say all silhouettes make a great character. So
What do you think makes stories appealing to us? And why do you think it's good for us to consume things in the first place? Or is it?
I don't think we can't not consume stuff.
Or like intentionally just watch a movie, you know?
I think if we follow the model of what Jesus did, he used a lot of analogies and stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard from someone who was talking about like entertainment and that whole industry and like how phones have become so addicting and like anyway, but he mentioned entertainment and he was talking about how like sermons and lectures and stuff should be entertaining, and the word entertain means to like hold the attention of. So it's not that like speakers and like people doing lectures necessarily have to like do cartwheels and add explosions to their message, but they should hold your attention, especially if it's like a really important message. So vacuuming in the background.
It's okay.
It's fine.
I like lost what I was saying. Thank you for cleaning up.
Entertaining.
Yeah, so like I think Jesus did that really well of like using stories and analogies to like help people like see the message but also like stay engaged. So I think that stories are like a tool that God has given us. And why we're so attracted to them, I don't know, I guess it's just something that you can follow along with and something that you can kind of relate to, and it's more concrete. Because many times if it's just like abstract words and ideas and theories, when you apply it to an actual like real world situation, or at least some sort of story that you can follow, I think it not only entertains and holds our attention, but also like it can be easier to understand. And it was interesting, like I remember being at my church one Sunday morning, and I was fighting to stay awake. But when our pastor started like telling a story, I just like didn't struggle staying awake anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. I mean, that it was kind of tough because like I should have been like awake for the whole thing, but I was like, wow, like just because he tells a story, it like keeps me awake and keeps me interested. So I think stories are definitely like a great tool for communicating good and bad messages. So.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with what you just said. And honestly, I would just love to hover around this topic for a little bit so like we can bounce back and forth. And I guess I won't say every thought I have right now, but I really do love the way that the Bible, specifically Jesus, uses storytelling. Like even in the parables, like Matthew 7:13-14. Enter by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who go in by it, because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it. And even like whenever people like, you have these awesome Christian filmmakers who take verses like this and use them in movies. Like, take for example, I don't know if any of y'all have seen Facing the Giants.
Yes.
But one scene I love in that is sorry, vacuum cleaning is maybe making me laugh. Anyways, like the guy's like talking about kicking the football goal, and he's like, David, you're kicking the football wrong. He's like, it's a beautiful scene. It's just like, it's why I remember this verse. And it's like talking about like, he's like, you got to put the ball through the middle. I know, coach, I know. No, son, no, you don't. And then he's like, starts quoting this verse. He's like, wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction. My what is he like? My mama can kick it right, left, wide, right. The ball has got to go through the middle. And like, it's just a beautiful parallel. Like, even how, like, Jesus uses this storytelling, and like how we even have this opportunity to storytell through Jesus' storytelling. And like, I love the way that it simply communicates in a simple way. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think I think that stories are a great way to hook people with the entertainment value.
Oh my word! Sorry.
And then get them to stay for the actual message. You know, you can teach them something when they weren't even willing to be taught it, just because you get them with a story. But I do think it might be, I might be wrong, but like it might be dangerous if your goal, like in a sermon, becomes entertainment
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
rather than the message.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, do you think that the message can overpower storytelling, or storytelling can overpower a message in a movie?
Let me ask you a different question. Do you think it would, or I guess this is a question to counteract your question.
Okay.
Do you think it would be wrong to have storytelling only and never a clear message about what the storytelling is sharing?
I'm not sure that's entirely possible to have.
Yeah, but
Um,
even if it was, I don't think it'd be wrong.
Yeah, I guess just as. Well, I guess in a story you have to have a message, because you have to have a problem, and you have to say that that problem is bad and overcoming it is good. So I guess every story has some sort of message, even if it's really non-controversial and basic. Like, friendship is cool. But I think the real power comes when you make a story that's very easy to understand and simple to follow, but has a unique message that's missing in a lot of other stories. I think that's what makes a lot of movies stand out from other movies, is a lot of the time not their story, but just their message. And having a Christian message in a movie is kind of different. Even if it's not like a Christian movie, like Shawshank Redemption, it's not, I don't think it was a Christian movie per se, but it definitely had a lot of Christian symbolism. And like the people that made Lord of the Rings, the movies, were not Christians, but that carried a lot of symbolism that Tolkien put in there as Christian symbolism. Anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think to build on that, the other aspect in movies that I think we can find redeeming qualities in is like the artistic aspects, because we're created in the image of God, and God is creative, and so are we, and we're called to make something of this world.
Mm-hmm.
And not everything we make has to reflect the gospel. I guess you could take that in different ways, because the gospel could be everything, just the truth. But then specifically I'm talking about Jesus. And for instance, in the Bible, you had God calling people to create art and music. And some of that art didn't reflect God as much as it reflected his creation. There's examples where, this is a small thing, but they're commanded to, or it's described that they drew pomegranates, but they drew blue pomegranates. So they sort of, and blue pomegranates don't exist. They sort of manipulated God's creation and made something out of what God made, because we're created in the image of God, and we're able to do that. In the same way, I think you can do that with movies, and that's what you can find redeeming in those movies, is those artistic qualities, because ultimately God made everything, and we make stuff out of what God makes, and that's good in a way, because it's nature.
At what point does creating something new out of what God made become bad?
When it leads to idolatry, I think.
Okay.
I would also.
And of course, there's other ways where you can sin with that, obviously.
Would it be?
But if you're putting the creation above the creator, then that's
Okay.
not good.
Yeah.
Right.
Could it also be perversion of what God has created?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah.
I think Max's answer really encapsulates all of it, because if you put the creator above the creation that you're depicting in the piece of art, then there's no way that your art could be, what was your word?
Perverted?
Yeah. There's no way that your art could be perverted. If you elevate that, or any perversion will, by definition, elevate that thing above the creator. Yeah. So I guess redeeming quality is kind of just like a balance scale. You have to weigh how is this, what was the intent behind this being made? Does it show something about God's creation or about God that agrees with Scripture, or that agrees with the Christian worldview?
What do you mean by redeeming quality?
I don't really want to say aligning with a Christian worldview, because I think there's a redeeming quality that's outside of a Christian worldview. It could even be an opposite worldview, but
For instance, maybe Bob Ross. I don't know, was Bob Ross Christian?
I think he might have been. I'm not sure, but
Let's take another,
We can do Bob Ross.
like Picasso or something.
yeah,
I don't know if we agree with Picasso's works are all amazing, but you could say there's like artistic value in that because he's maybe
Yeah.
representing nature, which is something God created.
yeah. Do you think that, let's say, a painter that worship nature are their paintings lacking any redeeming quality
You know,
because they're worshiping what they're painting above the creator that created it?
that question kind of reminds me when Paul's talking about, like, should we eat meat sacrificed to idols, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, if we're buying that painting and we're misleading other people by buying in that painting, supporting it because we're supporting someone who's not living the correct values, then maybe that's not a good idea. But if we don't know, or maybe it's not as known, I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. I don't know.
Okay.
Just like there's nothing wrong with eating what Paul talks about, eating that meat with other people, as long as you're not leading other people astray, you know?
Okay. So I guess you're kind of separating the artist from the art in that instance. You
In
can
a way.
still have a good piece of art even if the intent behind it wasn't good.
Yeah. I think that might be more personal convictions too.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
I think you could argue. I'm not sure where I'm gonna end with this, but like, basically, I mean, some people talk about like, oh, I'm not gonna listen to that artist because he has a terrible lifestyle.
Mhm.
And so, but I think that sin is sin, and like, I'm not trying to say that sin isn't bad and to justify anything, but like, we all have mistakes and sin and baggage, and if we judge someone's art by who they are, I think we could technically not even enjoy any art because all of us are imperfect. But I do think that if the art is misplacing God and like, or distorting His creation in like a sinful way and causes others to stumble, I think that's when we need to start raising red flags of like, hey, I think this art is not pleasing to the Lord, and also I don't think it will help me and others
Yeah.
draw closer to the Lord, and I don't think it will be very edifying. So yeah, and I think like you were saying, like personal conviction too is when that kind of comes in. Like some people don't think that a movie or a show or whatever may be as bad as another person may think, and so yeah, it kind of comes down to where do you draw that line of what you consume and what you allow, I guess, into your eyes, and your mind.
I guess there has to be some sort of line between this thing doesn't go against my conscience, so it's okay for me to watch, versus I've dulled my conscience so much that I'm
Yeah.
okay with watching this, even though I shouldn't.
Mm.
So trying to find that line is kind of tough sometimes.
Fair.
Yeah.
I think it would be extremely wise. Like, this is something I've been working on, so I don't necessarily want to do it right now because, like, I mean, obviously I don't have it all together, and I'm broken, guys, in case you didn't know. But I think it would be wise to, even just for y'all and the audience, to, I guess, like, I guess I'm trying to work on just, like, studying God's word and, like, what it says about consuming media. And, like, not necessarily making a list, but I guess just kind of having, like, almost, I mean, I guess it's a list, but kind of like a set of standards of, like, things that, like, so that way, I guess kind of that way you can know the fine line between this is my conscience just being dulled, or this is, like, or, I mean, I guess this is wrong, or over here, and it's like, this is just straight up wrong, like, no.
Yeah.
Like, Sawyer, what are your thoughts?
Well, for movies, in order to consume, as Dallas Willard talks about, because we're reading through a book of Dallas Willard called Renovation of the Heart, and he talks about everything we intake, like, has some effect on us, like, on our output and our actions. And so we need to see in a movie if there's a redeemable quality in the movie. And if there is something that can be, like, redeemed, or if there are positive messages that need to be celebrated, which would merit us watching. But if there's no redeemable quality of the movie, or there's nothing that should be celebrated, then we need to be careful.
And I still think, even if there's no redeeming quality, there could be people that shouldn't watch it, but there also could be people that can watch it to find what is evil and needs to be corrected. And you'd watch it for that reason. But if you watch it for a different reason, with different motives going in, that's when it can cause a problem.
We'll be right back after this break, and then I want to go into some stuff.
Some stuff? Okay.
We're back from the break, and we were going to go into this a little bit earlier, but I guess it's just kind of dwindled down to now. We were talking about these 4 questions and asking in a movie. Sawyer, I believe you wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
You can do that while I try to find a Bible verse.
And are we specifically talking about Cars 2?
We can, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll use Cars 2 as the example.
Yeah. So, John Stone Street's 4 questions, like, what is good that can be celebrated in this movie? What is missing in the movie? What is evil that needs to be taken out? And what is broken that can be restored? So, yeah. And so, when we look at a movie and we look at it and say, okay, what is good and needs to be celebrated? And what would we say of, like, Cars 2? What would be good and celebrated in Cars 2?
Friendship.
The
Friendship.
value of friendship.
It's a really basic kids.
Perseverance.
Sure.
I guess the want for power and money can lead to evil, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't kill people.
Don't kill
Or
people.
cars.
Don't kill cars.
Don't kill sentient cars, specifically.
Is there anything missing from Cars 2?
I think it depends on, like, I guess what kind of movie you're trying to make. Because if you're trying to make a movie that entertains, I think it does that pretty well. However, if you want to convey a really good message, I guess they could we could add like more to the message, and you could add a Christian theme to it. I'm not saying you have to, but I guess it depends on like what we're trying to add, like in terms of story and moral of the story, stuff like that.
It already has some Christian values in it. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it has to be, preaching the gospel every time,
I mean, as far as what can be added, not from a worldview stance, but just like as far as making it a better movie.
Hold up.
Sorry, Simon, you might want to close your ears. I feel like the endings that Pixar is known for, like the big emotional endings, or just like the thing that you were talking about, like with Up, like that amazing ending, or the climax, it was not there in Cars 2, in my opinion, just because like the bomb is diffused and like the music is building up to this intense moment, and then it just stops, and they're
He
like,
meets the Queen of England for the second time to get knighted by her.
he's a car. I feel like you can't really take that as seriously when he's a car. I don't know. It just kind of felt like they were living in a human world, but as cars. I feel like they should have integrated more like car type things. Like they were in a human hotel. I don't know. Things
It was
to
a
add.
car hotel. Did you not see the wheel?
Yeah, but it looked too much like a human hotel. Now we're just nitpicking. It doesn't matter as much.
What do y'all think about the violence?
Violence.
In Cars 2, I like the.
Like, there's a lot of gunfire. And,
I like the way that it's portrayed, without being portrayed almost, I guess.
Yeah.
I think
If that makes sense.
I mentioned this earlier, like it doesn't affect people. I guess the only reason it could affect people is because, like, if it was just a normal car that blew up, I guess you could be like, oh, well, they're not treating that property very well, and if that wasn't your property, that's wrong. But if you're talking about like the death of a car, because they're giving it characteristics of a human and like a personality and maybe perhaps like a soul, I don't think they would say that, but like I believe all humans have a soul. So if you're taking those characteristics and putting them into a car, technically that would be equivalent to taking the life of another person. I don't know how far you want to get into it.
Reincarnation.
Reincarnation.
Or
Whoa.
installment, I guess.
No, get the pun.
Haha.
I didn't mean-
Reincarnation.
We do not believe that. For clarification.
Sawyer just got it.
I'm just a little slow here, okay?
But I think the violence was justified. Like, all of it was depicted as evil. None of it was glorified. I mean, of course, it's a kid's film, so
Yeah.
not much of an issue there.
Would you say that the taking of, say, they had something to celebrate in the movie could be it had clear evil in the movie, but the taking of the life of those who were evil was put in a good light, and
Did they ever take the life of anyone who was evil?
I would say
Never mind.
Yeah, we did a kill count. There was quite a lot.
Well, did Finn McMissile ever actually intentionally, okay, except for the boat, actually intentionally
Like,
kill?
shoot a bunch
He
of
did
bombs
kill
along
a
the
lot
road.
of people, actually.
You're right.
He did.
Yeah,
Never mind.
Kill a lot of
I
people
revoke
there.
that statement.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think when I said about violence, like death is definitely not.
Yeah.
Like, it's totally okay to depict death
Yeah.
in movies. Like completely okay. I think it's how you depict
Like
it.
Up.
Right? Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and I mean the gospel. Seriously. I mean
That's
John
true.
the Baptist got his head chopped off. It's
Yeah.
like there's violence in the world, and to kind of ignore that, I think is doing yourself a disservice.
I think I would agree that like just the idea of death is something, and actual death is unavoidable. So I think it should be like not a part of every story, but like it's a part of life. Therefore, like it's the truth that we all die. I think though grotesque like violence and going into unnecessary detail and like exaggerating that is when I think line should start to be drawn as like, what's the point of all this violence if it's just to entertain or shock, when you could prove the same point just with less violence.
Yeah, like we were talking about this kind of a little bit the other day, but like even like Goliath, or you said John the Baptist, like the Bible has stuff, but it doesn't go into gruesome detail. And okay, well,
I think it goes into the amount of detail to describe the event accurately, right? I don't think
Yeah.
the Bible
Yeah.
holds back, I guess is what I'm saying.
yeah, it's probably a better way to put it.
Yeah.
But sorry, continue.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I agree that you shouldn't go into unnecessary grotesqueness in any violence that you show on film, but also you can show the true intensity or like evil of an action, and that might be grotesque because that is the magnitude that you need to depict it.
Yeah.
And in that case, you're not glorifying it, but it's extremely violent just to show the depravity of the situation, not to, satisfy your primal desires to see violence on the screen.
I guess kind of like Jesus on the cross.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think Simon's right. It like doesn't vividly describe like David sawing off Goliath's head. It says what it needs to say. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think too, like I just think of Saving Private Ryan. I mean that like one of the main purposes I think of that movie was to show how horrible war is and most accurately and realistically show war. And I think you could argue that depiction of violence and gore could be different from just a Quentin Tarantino slasher, whatever kind of film where the violence is just to be violent. And I think also, the Bible does go into enough detail, but also it doesn't describe blood and gore of like what happens necessarily and like everything. But I think also like even in the stories that Jesus told of like the Good Samaritan, he could have gone into detail of like, and the robbers who robbed was he a Jew, I think, who got robbed?
The Samaritan?
No, it was just a man. I think you just described him as a man.
Well, the man who gets robbed, they could have gone into detail of like what the robbers did and like the weapons they used and stuff like that, but he just said like he was robbed and beaten, and so he doesn't go into the detail because it's not really needed. So yeah.
I mean, we could really honestly dive into this with stuff like The Chosen and such, but
Yeah, that's a good point.
we
What do you mean by that?
do you want to dive into it, or
No.
do you want to go and wrap up time-wise, because we're cutting it kind of close?
One last thought regarding that. I think a way to know when it's too much.
Out of the shot a little bit.
I think a way to know when that violence is too much is, you look at your heart, and sometimes for me, if I'm watching something, maybe like Quentin Tarantino or something, and I feel myself, it's like I don't want to watch it, it feels wrong, but then you kind of feel drawn to that because you're sort of curious about it. I think that's kind of dangerous, and that's where you have to watch yourself and be like, maybe that feeling's not a good feeling, that I should try to resist that,
Yeah.
and maybe I should be watching something else.
Have you ever heard of the analogy, like the hunter gets a knife, puts it in the woods, puts blood on it, so that way the wolves can like come and eat the blood because they're attracted to the blood, but slowly as they lick the blood, they're killing themselves.
They're licking the knife.
Yes. They're licking the knife,
Interesting.
licking the blood, which kills themselves. And I don't know why what you just said reminded me of that, but that was kind of the analogy that I was reminded of. Have y'all ever heard of that before?
I'm not.
I have.
That's an interesting analogy. I think no matter what we're watching, if your conscience tells you no, then it's wrong for you to watch it. I think that's the baseline. At very minimum, if you feel like you shouldn't watch this, then it's automatically wrong for you to watch it. And I think Paul lines a sort of argument like that out, like with the meat sacrificed to idols. it would have been wrong for people who thought it was wrong to eat meat sacrificed to idols to eat the meat, even if it wasn't wrong for other people because it didn't violate their consciences.
I disagree with that a little bit. I agree with the main
How?
thing. I don't think it's. I don't know. I just remember growing up, my family really wanted to show me Passion of the Christ. I really did not want to see Jesus get his nails ripped at the thing. But then seeing that was actually really good for me.
Was that
because
your conscience, or was that your desire to
I don't
not
know.
see it?
But I'm saying sometimes it might be hard to tell the difference.
Ah,
So
okay.
maybe use that, the conscience, and then also use the Bible.
Well, I guess
You know?
the difference would be,
But I do agree with you.
if it's your conscience, you can still want to watch something, but your conscience tells you, oh no.
Donna.
No!
Donna.
Where are you guys?
Well,
Well, that's the end of the podcast, guys.
Yeah, well,
Honestly, let's just wrap it up because
Okay.
we should go. Anyways, I was just going to say here at the end.
The power just went out for the
The
people
power did not
listening.
go out. Just the lights went out.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, so John 10:10, the thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. And I just feel like that's a good verse to leave off of, and just to kind of, even for you guys and you guys to think about, just whenever you are consuming this stuff, like, there is an enemy out there that is coming to steal and to kill and to destroy. Like, watch your back.
yeah.
Um,
Don't let any route
Max
of
is like,
temptation
yeah.
flow into your life.
I
But-
thought you were gonna read Jesus is gonna come back like a thief in the night for a minute, and I was like, it's getting dark, and then.
No, but yeah, so we'll go and we'll wrap it up right here. Thank you guys for joining me this week. And yeah, it was very cool.
Would you like to pray it out real quick?
Yeah, we can.
All right.
In the dark.
All right. I can pray.
Okay.
Dear Lord, thank you for this podcast and that we get to talk to each other about just fun things like Cars 2, and also how it applies to us and the gospel and our consciences. Please guide us in what we watch and what we consume, and convict us when that does not align with your will. And also show us the good things in those things that we can celebrate and protect. Thank you for the people watching right now. I pray that this will have been helpful for them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, well, thank you guys for watching. Bye.